This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the platform that helps you easily build websites. New marketing photos revealed last week for House of the Dragon showed a very big scene. We already know we were jumping back and forth between two time periods in Targaryen's history, but HBO decided to let us know that there will be at least one more era we'll be seeing on screen. That older character sitting on that fancy chair is the old King Jaehaerys Targaryen, the main character, Rhaenyra's great-grandfather. He ruled over the Seven Kingdoms before King Viserys, who's Rhaenyra's father. The old King Jaehaerys ruled for a very long time. Judging by this photo, we can narrow down what the scene is depicting. Without getting too deep into spoiler territory, it's very likely that this is the aftermath of the Great Council the old king called to vote on who would be his successor because he outlived some of his sons. He's not sitting on the Iron Throne because this is not King's Landing. The Great Council of 101 AC takes place in Harrenhal, since it's the biggest castle on the continent. A lot of lords and their vassals were expected to attend and vote, and a lot came. With this being 200 years before Game of Thrones, the Targaryens' relationship with House Baratheon was very different.
What Rhaegar Targaryen did to your sister, the woman I loved. I'll kill every Targaryen I get my hands on.
Most of the families in the story have unique identifying traits that get passed down generations. The Starks usually come off as cold to most, but are good honorable people once you get to know them. The Lannisters, cunning, and the Baratheons are fierce. So many past Baratheons are just slight variations of Robert's character that we see in the current story. Sometimes they're a little too hot-headed for their own good, causing turbulent relations with their blood relatives, the Targaryens. If you weren't aware, the Baratheons kinda started off as a branch family of the Targaryens, though they might not look it, with their iconic dark hair. After House Baratheon's founding in 1 AC, there have been some marriages between the families, but a Baratheon was never given a dragon to bond with. King Jaehaerys' mother remarried the ruling Baratheon lord at the time, Rhaegar. He fell in line with the stereotype of being loud and temperamental. Rhaegar was Jaehaerys' stepfather, but Jaehaerys was known to say he didn't need another father. Until the king was of age, Rhaegar and Jaehaerys' mother ruled the Seven Kingdoms, but Rhaegar, as hand of the king, would quickly overstep his place and would eventually be dismissed. After his failed coup, Rhaegar apologized to his stepson and went back home to Storm's End. It wasn't like Rhaegar wanted all the power to himself, he just didn't want his decisions to be disrespected. Rhaegar made two half-siblings for the king, first a son named Bormund, and then a daughter named Jocelyn. Rhaegar died long before the Great Council of 101 AC, so don't expect to see this guy in House of the Dragon. He hoped to die in the battlefield, hunting down an outlaw going by the infamous name of Vulture King, that you'll hear a couple characters claim the title of, but Rhaegar was just too strong to be defeated. He instead died by the side of his maester, a fate he tried to avoid. It's his two children that should make an appearance in the Great Council, because Jocelyn almost became Queen of the Seven Kingdoms. King Jaehaerys gave the Baratheons the honor of having their daughter marry his son and heir, Prince Aemon. But while Prince Aemon and the new Lord Bormund Baratheon were fighting off some pirates in the Stormlands, Prince Aemon was taken out with a crossbow, having only one daughter with his wife Jocelyn. This was one of the reasons the Great Council was called. Before all the conflicts involved with that, let me take a second to thank the video sponsor, Squarespace. If you have a website in mind, check out squarespace.com/whycreate to take advantage of all their pre-built and customizable templates to make your life easier. Start off with registering a domain, or if you already purchased one elsewhere, you can connect it to your Squarespace site. After you've built something that matches your brand, there's tools here to kick off your marketing. You can easily enable newsletter signups from your website, and even send out email campaigns. Start your free website trial if you plan ahead with building. Then when you're ready to launch your site, go to squarespace.com/whycreate to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Looking back at the Great Council, Lord Bormund's niece, Jocelyn's daughter, named Rhaenys Targaryen, was the wrong gender to have the crown put atop her head.
A woman would not inherit the Iron Throne, because that is the order of things.
While the Baratheons, and even the Starks, would have loved to see Rhaenys or her son sit on the Iron Throne, it was Jaehaerys' grandson, Viserys, to be chosen instead, in an overwhelming win of votes. Bormund inherited those same Baratheon genes, and was Rhaenys' loudest supporter, but that wasn't enough to sway the other lords. For the first 100 years after the Seven Kingdoms were conquered and united by the Targaryens, the Baratheons were always heavily involved in all the drama and politics. Like House of Valerion, who we'll see a lot of in House of the Dragon, these families have deep blood ties. After Viserys succeeded Jaehaerys, House Baratheon became less involved. Can you blame Viserys for not enjoying the company of people who loudly opposed his reign? Court was being filled with new faces from the Reach. House Hightower married into the ruling family when King Viserys went looking for a new younger wife to replace his deceased one. Another succession issue rose less than 30 years after the previous one. Instead of a calm and peaceful council with votes, House of the Dragon will adapt a full-blown civil war between two factions of the Targaryen family, and each side is going to want to win the Baratheons' support, as awkward as it will be to approach them after the strained relationship. Bormund is the Lord Baratheon we see in the trailer, swear fealty to Princess Rhaenyra's claim to the Iron Throne.
Rickon Stark.
I, Orys Baratheon. I, Orys Baratheon.
Promise to be faithful to King Viserys and to his named heir,
Princess Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra Targaryen.
But Lord Bormund dies before the Civil War. How isn't stated in any of the lore books. All we know is that both of the feuding Targaryen factions approach his son, the new lord, Orys Baratheon. Orys inherited the same Baratheon traits, but dialed all the way up. He's a character built for war and not much else. He's described as even more belligerent than his father in the lore book, Fire and Blood. The exact quote is, Lord Borys was the wind that rages and howls and blows this way and that. The more unpredictable family members throughout their history are always compared to storms, like their castle's name Storm's End and the kingdom the Stormlands. The Hightowers considered him to be their greatest danger, so had to negotiate with him very carefully. A simple raven couldn't be sent to him asking Borys to join their cause. He was all pride, and disrespecting Borys would push him to the other faction. Blood ties alone mean nothing to him. This would be a great place for the writers of House of the Dragon to add in some creative liberties. The Baratheons are a new great house, but are very rich and powerful, not because they're a Targaryen branch family, but because the founder, Aegon's half-brother, Orys Baratheon, absorbed the former Storm King's land and wealth. Orys killed the last Storm King in single combat, then married his daughter and took over the entire kingdom. All the noble houses in the Stormlands swear fealty to the Baratheons, and like the Baratheons, they're all known for their martial culture. It's not just Robert and his ancestors. All the houses in this region are born for battle. Barristan Selmy and Beric Dondarrion are prime examples of what this culture breeds.
Even now I could cut through the five of you like carving a cake. Here, boy.
Both of the Targaryen factions know this. Winning over Lord Borys won't be easy. You'll have to walk on eggshells and cannot take his support for granted. Borys won't be identical to Robert, but should be just as fun to see on screen. Probably not until the second season though. There's way too much to establish before the Civil War kicks off. But that's the Baratheons of this era. I'll see you guys next week with another video. Thanks for watching.